But in practice, we don't realize the differential outputs this way because of the following problem. So let me actually take this. Let me erase the supply because it's understood now. So let us say, for example, let me take this to be an amplifier. So now one way to get this outputs is to have two single-ended amplifiers and operate in parallel. So let us say I have a common source. Let us say I give plus Vi by 2, and I take another common source. I give minus Vi by 2 and define the output as the difference between these two. This is one trivial way. That's what we have seen as this. But in practice, we don't realize the differential outputs this way, and this has some problem. And what is that? No, GM. Forget about the gain. Let's say we know. The question is, the point I'm asking is, in practice, we don't realize the differential outputs as two single-ended amplifiers operating separately. This has some issue, and you guys know that. What is it? Sorry? Let's not go that much. No, let's not even get to coupling. Let's not. I mean, see, they're all there, but they're not the main problems. Okay. I mean, this. What is the differential amplifier structure you have seen? Is this a differential amplifier you have seen? What's the issue? Huh? That's okay. I mean, I can change, make this as plus, this as minus. Then it's. No, right now it's differential, right? Okay, let us say I have some interfering signal getting added to each of these. Let us say some interfering signal, I'll call it some VC. Now, let us say I have Vi by 2, so this guy will give you A times Vi by 2. This is giving you minus A times Vi by 2. Now, if I have an interfering signal getting added, what will be the additional output? Plus, here also plus A times Vc. Again, if I take the difference between the two, it gets cancelled. That's not a problem. But remember that the interfering signal can be really large in amplitude than the actual signal you are trying to amplify. To give a number, let us say the signal that you are trying to amplify is say 0.1 millivolts, whereas the stray interfering signal that is getting added, let's say it's some 500 millivolts. It can easily be the case in practice. Okay, and let us say your gain is of the order of 10. Now, what can you say about the output? Let's say a supply of 1 volt. Output will saturate, right? Although it is not saturating because your signal is very large, it is getting saturated because the interfering signal is very large. So that will make the entire system useless, right? So that is why this is a problem, and this is problem because, and this is happening because as of now the system is responding the same way to both the differential signal as well as to common mode signal. So in practice we have a term for quantifying this. What is that called? Common mode rejection ratio. So this is having a poor common mode rejection ratio because it is providing the same gain for differential mode signal as well as for the common mode signal, and that's a problem because of this reason. So what is the solution for this? I mean, how do you make the differential amplifier instead of doing this? I mean, what is the differential amplifier we have seen so far? Yeah, but let us say two pairs are there, but what do you do to the common, I mean, to the source terminal? Short it and keep it floating. Yeah. So now let us say you do this. Okay. So now let us say initially you have only the bias voltage applied. This is a current. So what can you say about the two currents? Fine. Now let us say the differential signal is not present. Okay. Or let us say it's very small. You have the interfering signal getting added here. So let us say the interfering signal is added now. Now what can you say about the currents in the transistors? Same. So which means what can you say about the outputs here? Will they change or not change? They will not change. So that's why if I have this structure wherein I have a constant current source used for biasing, even though I change the gate voltage in a common mode fashion, the individual outputs do not change. But how is it that when I change the gate voltages here, currents are remaining constant? Yeah, this voltage changes automatically to keep the VGS same so that the currents are same. So this structure is called pseudo differential. And the one that has a common mode rejection is called as a fully differential structure. And fully differential structure inherits all the advantages of the differential signaling. I will say it is immune to supply and ground disturbances. Let's say supply and ground noise. It is immune to any kind of interfering signal that is getting added, and on top of it, it has a very good common mode rejection ratio. And an added benefit is this. Now if I look at this circuit, is it symmetric or asymmetric? Symmetric. So now if I give you any two inputs V1, V2 and ask you to find what is the output, what will you do? You decompose as common mode differential and your circuit becomes half circuit. Even analysis is easier, right? So in a way it's easy for you guys to actually analyze also. Cool. Oops. Okay, so now this is the simplest fully differential op amp we know. So if I want to increase again, what will I replace it with? PMOS transistor. So let's do that. So same thing. Let's quickly draw this. So the output is defined as the difference between these two. Let us say we apply some bias voltage here, bias current I0, VB. So even before getting into the small signal picture, can you tell me what will be the Can you tell me what will be the DC operating point voltages at the drain? Let's say these voltages. I mean, I gave you in a couple of assignment problems. I gave you in the quiz also. In the midsem also I asked it. It is like watching India-Pakistan cricket match whole day and saying Virat Kohli is a fast bowler or a batsman. So it's undefined. Everyone is convinced. See, again, this is the same thing we saw in a two-stage op amp, right? The two-stage op amp, we had the first stage, the 5-transistor OTA. The second stage was your same common source. Here also you had the same thing. This was not defined. And there, what was defining this bias point finally? We need to have some DC negative feedback, and when the op-amp was put in a global DC negative feedback, this was set. So let us see if the same thing happens here also. And for that, first let me actually relook at the single-ended output op-amp. So let us say this is your two-stage op-amp. I am putting it in negative feedback like this. I use a resistive feedback. Let's say this is VCM, only the DC biasing I am taking. So now what is Vx? What is Vx also ideally will be at VCM, and this is set by the negative feedback, let us say. So what is the DC current flowing here? What is the current flowing? Then what will be the DC the output? Yeah, I'll call the DC at the output as VOCM, the output common mode, and that is also VCM. And that's how the DC negative feedback was setting the DC bias point at the output. Now I have a fully differential op-amp. So let me draw that first. So in a fully differential case, I have two inputs and two outputs. Right? So just like how I formed an inverting amplifier with a single-ended output op-amp, how can I form an inverting amplifier here? Yeah, let's say we start with this. Here I had one output, let's say the positive output. From the positive output, I fed back to the negative input. So let's first do that. From the positive, I'll feed to the negative. So that will give you this first. Right? But remember that in a fully differential circuit, the output is defined as potential difference between these two. So whatever I am doing for the positive side, I have to do for the negative side. So I should have another feedback here that is feeding the negative output to the positive input. Okay. So now let's see what happens. So let us say at the input, as usual, I apply some VCM as the bias voltage. Let me call the virtual ground voltages as Vx and Vy. Now, what can you say about Vx and Vy? They are equal, and that is set by the negative feedback. Similarly, what can you say about D2? I mean, if Vx and Vy are equal, the two output voltages, they will also be equal. So I'll say VOP will be equal to VOM. But is the negative feedback saying what will be the absolute values of Vx and Vy? Yes or no? I mean, negative feedback is only saying the difference between these two is 0, which means Vx is equal to Vy. But it is not saying what will be the exact values of Vx and Vy. Is this clear? So once again, which means I can only say that the two output voltages are equal. This negative feedback will not set what these two voltages are exactly equal to. Is this clear? This is in stark contrast to what you had here, right? Here, the negative feedback told Vx is equal to VCM, which means you could argue that zero current flows here, zero current flows here. The output is also VCM. So you cannot expect that this negative feedback alone will be able to define my output DC bias. So you can't expect the negative feedback to do all the work in the world. It can only do so much. So which means in addition to this, you should have some other negative feedback mechanism that will set the output bias. So we should have some other feedback mechanism that will go and set the output bias here. I mean, the other way to interpret this is this, right? See, here I just had one in this right side. I just had one signal. It could be, let us say, the virtual one Vx or Vo. Only the positive side I had. So for defining one voltage, one negative feedback loop was enough. Whereas here I have two output voltages and two virtual ground voltages. For defining the two voltages, how many feedback loops I need? For defining one voltage, I need one feedback. For defining two voltages, I need two feedback loops. As of now, the feedback loop I have is only saying that differential signal is 0. Or in other words, it is active for differential mode signals. Right? The global feedback you have here is operational for differential mode signals, which means for defining the two voltages independently, in addition to the feedback for the differential mode signals, you also need feedback for, and that feedback is called the common mode feedback. I will say, mention it like this: common mode feedback or CMF. And that's what we will be seeing in the rest of the, in the couple of weeks next. This is fine. So let's just do this and wrap up, right? So let us say I have the output common mode defined. So let us say the common mode feedback loop is setting the output common mode to some VOCM. And let us say the input you apply a common mode of VICM, that is the input bias. What can you say about Vx? This voltage is at VICM. This voltage is at VOCM. What will the intermediate voltage be? I have two inputs. It's a resistive divider. So VICM times R2 by R1 plus R2 plus VOCM times. And what can you say about Vy? Same as this. That is ensured by the global negative feedback loop we have, and that is saying the differential signal at this should be 0. And in particular, if I choose VICM to be equal to VOCM equal to some VCM, then what can you say about Vx and Vy? If these two are equal, what happens? Becomes 0. So the takeaway from this class is the following: you on chip, you always try to have fully differential systems because it is immune to all kinds of common mode disturbances, starting from supply, grounds, or any interfering signal that is getting added. And if you can have two implementations, by the way. You can have the pseudo differential, but that has poor common mode rejection. So that is why we have this fully differential. The moment you have fully differential structures, there is a high possibility that the output common mode will not be set. Which means in addition to having a different feedback for differential mode signals, you also need to have a feedback loop for common mode signals that sets the output common mode. And that is the common mode feedback. Okay. So I'll stop here and then we'll continue.